Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 160. Our Man Flint, the classic Sci-Fi film from 1966, starring James Coburn, Lee J. Cobb, Gilder Gollin, and Edward Mulhare. With me tonight to discuss this film from 1966 and this classic spy, I'll say satire, is my friend, my co-host, the one and only, Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Thank you, Roy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely,
160
Ross.
episodes. I wasn't there for the full 160 though. Full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
Good to see you. Probably about 140 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I am very excited to say that we are broadcasting tonight, just to let our folks know, we are broadcasting on not only Facebook, but we are also broadcasting on YouTube, and we all are also broadcasting on Twitter. So just so everybody knows, the YouTube channel is Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. So if you want to go over to YouTube to check it out, please do so. And all I ask is that what we ask is that you please hit the subscribe button. So that way you can generate that. We're trying to do a cross feed into different avenues, and we're hoping this works well, and as well as Twitter. So very excited about that. So if in regards to Twitter, if you can please follow us on Twitter. And on Twitter, it is Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi. So that's where it ends. And that's because of the limitations with the Twitter name. So again, thank you for that. We're doing this new format as well. So with StreamYard. So we're hoping you like it. And I want to welcome our viewers out there. I see Colin Curlis is joining us. Welcome, Colin. Colin's joining us from the UK. I also see that Liz is joining us. Welcome, Liz. And Dennis Chevalier is joining us from Canada. Hey, Dennis. Don Bethman is joining us from Delaware. Welcome, Don. Also, Martin Bend is also out there joining us from New York. Welcome, Martin. Welcome back, Martin, too, because we know you were traveling in the UK. And also, I see Deborah is out there. Good evening, Deborah. Good to see you. Deborah's joining us from actually Phillipsburg, New Jersey. And I see, let me see. Just want to see. Also, Brennan is also joining us. Welcome, Brennan. Thanks for joining. Vince is also joining us, and he is joining us from Lopakon and the Rehab Center. Vince, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it, and we hope that you are doing well, which you're definitely doing a lot better. So we are just so you know, pal, our prayers are with you. So we're really happy that you can be out there. And also, Bill Scrotto is joining us. Bill is joining us from YouTube. Yes, Bill, thank you for confirming that. Awesomeness. Thank you. And
this is like playing a stadium now.
So, hey, I think, in fact, Bill is probably our first YouTuber. So, and actually, you know what? I can't tell where the comments are coming from, but I just see that he is out there. So that's pretty awesome. So anyway, everyone, thanks for being out there. We are here to discuss this film, which is called Our Man Flint. And what a great film this was. I had never actually seen this film before, and very excited about discussing it. And yeah, let's get right to it.
Great fun. You know, this is like something that used to be on TV all the time. I've never seen it all the way through until this week. You know, in fact, I confused the two Flint movies, I think, you know, because there was a follow-up, In Like Flint, which was the next year, both with James Coburn. And yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think I enjoyed it more than most of the Bond films.
Uh-oh.
Which, of course, it satirizes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But no, I think the chemistry is there. And right off the bat, I'm actually going to say right away, too, I am disappointed that there was not more in this film series, because I really think that this would have done very well had there been.
Yeah. Well, apparently, you know, Coburn said that they were going to do more. And I think they had some scripts that were coming in, but the studio, despite the fact, apparently the first one, I think was the third highest grossing film for 20th Century Fox, Our Man Flint, for that year. And then In Like Flint, I think it was the fourth highest grossing. So it was making money for them, but the studio apparently wasn't really behind it. They didn't want to put money into it. It's kind of like, remember we were talking about Planet of the Apes
Yes.
where they had the 5 films. And despite the fact that they kept making money, they kept having the budget, cutting the budget in half for every film until by the
Right.
end, you had Paul Williams and like guys walking around with the Halloween masks and
In the background.
yeah,
They were
with
like the secondary.
on them.
The secondary extras became the first extras in the following film, and then before you know it, by the time they got to the 5th film, that's what all the casts were wearing that were actually the playing the apes were starring, and they were wearing these masks.
Yeah, so Coburn kind of had the idea that it was going in that direction, so they never made a third one. But he was sad to see it go. And in fact, I just read before we went on that Harlan Ellison had actually written a teleplay, I guess, for a third one, which was going to be called Flintlock.
Flintlock, yes.
And it was supposed to continue the series and possibly kick off a television series, but it never was produced.
Yeah, I guess that was a couple of years later, because it was in 1972 that they were actually looking to do that. And of course, Ellison, I mean, if he was getting involved, and that would have been right before he did, he got involved with the 1973 Canadian film, Canadian series that our Canadian friends always like to talk about. Dennis, let us know what that show is. It was on for some
Not Star Lost.
Star Lost. Thank you, Ross.
Is that it?
Lost,
okay.
Yeah.
See, I've never even seen it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But it was kind of coinciding. But then he actually wound up bailing from that because he was really aggravated by the direction everything went. So, in fact, he used his pen name for that. What was it? Cordwainer Bird.
Oh, right. Okay.
Gee, I wonder why he picked that title. Anyway, hey, I want to welcome Lou is joining us from Rhode Island. Hey, Lou, thanks for being out there tonight. Claudia Combs is also joining us. Claudia, welcome to the show. Great to see you. David is also joining us. David, welcome. He said, love those 2 movies with Coburn. And Dennis did confirm it was Star Lost that we were talking about. And Brennan is saying Ellison did write an episode for Man from U.N.C.L.E. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because there's a lot of crossover from I shouldn't say a lot, but there's some crossover from the Man from U.N.C.L.E., and that'll come out during the course of our conversation, I'm sure. But I want to ask, before we really get into this, does anybody remember the Dane Curse? Do you remember when they filmed that in Easton, Pennsylvania? I asked because it's local, extremely local. It's right across the river from you.
Ross, I came across that title, but I wasn't here for that. Did they filmed that in this area then?
In the 70s, it was on in 78. It was James Coburn. It had a great cast. I mean, a really surprisingly starry cast. Some of the people were soon to become stars, and some had already, like Beatrice Straight, who was in Network, was in it, and Poltergeist. She has a small part in Poltergeist. But Hector Elizondo, what was he? What was that? It wasn't St. Elsewhere, was it? What was he on? Chicago Hope, St. Elsewhere. He's on one of those hospitals.
I think it was St. Elsewhere. Now that you're mentioning it.
Yeah. He was in it. Jason Miller, who was in The Exorcist, the award-winning playwright. He wrote that championship season. But I mean, they're all. Oh, and Brett Spiner. Before he became. There's a Road to Trek. But anyway, they filmed it all in at least most of it, from what I understand, in Easton. And I remember it was a big deal because they were looking for extras. And I was having a chat with Deborah earlier in the week, and she said she had met James Coburn or seen James Coburn while she was working, and one of the other stars. And I wondered if anybody else out there had seen anybody or been involved with the production of that, because I remember they were looking for extras. I was not involved. My parents saw Coburn at Yule's Oyster House on College Hill.
Okay, now I remember you talking to Deborah about that. I wonder, Bill, if you remember that, or if you were involved with that at all back then. And you know who was a local filmmaker in this area? Lou Rita was he?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I wonder if he was affiliated with any of that going on.
That I don't know, but I remember Lou Rita. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just always remember that Coburn played in that and kind of looked like Dashiell. Well, it was based on Dashiell Hammett's mystery, the book. And he kind of looked like Hammett, in the production of that. I haven't
Bill,
seen it for years. I'm going to go back and watch it though. Yeah.
that would be really cool to check out, considering it was local.
Yeah.
Bill just commented. He said, "I remember the Dane Curse. I was in Yuli's restaurant on College Hill when Coburn came in to eat." So there
You
you
were
go.
probably in the restaurant with my parents because unless he was eating there every night, maybe it was like his favorite restaurant. Let's go back to Yule's.
That's hysterical. Wow.
Yeah.
So that was what? That was back in 70, 78, Ross?
78 is when it aired.
So probably 77 they were filming. So literally like 45 years ago.
So I watched it when it was on the network TV. And then I saw it again in Mr. Conahan's mystery and science fiction class. He had taped it. So we watched it again probably in 83 or so, 84. But it's been that long since I've seen it.
Deborah just commented and said you can watch on Tubi for free. So you can
and I'm going to. Thank you, Deborah. Yeah.
Ross, just stand by for 1 second. I'm going to just try something real quick. It's just going to take a second.
Where are you going, Roy?
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to just try something real quick. I
Don't leave me twisting, Roy.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Almost there.
Did I ever introduce you to my CD collection?
This is where you get a tour of Ross's.
Yeah,
Ross's
we'll start at the beginning. We'll work our way through.
Did I ever introduce you to my CD collection?
Who was that?
What was an echo? Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to check something on there. Okay,
It's so vast. There's an echo.
Echo. Okay, let me just try something. Thanks for your patience, folks. I just want to just make sure that everything is coming in clearly here, and I'm just doing a test. And this is just going to take me 1 second. And I appreciate your patience. And all right, let me see here. All right, give me 1 second.
We're giving it to you, Roy.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ross.
I suppose I could keep talking.
No, okay, it didn't go through, so that's okay. I just wanted to check on that one level. Okay, we're good. Yeah, so that is pretty good. Oh, whatchamacallit? Deborah just said, "Where's the ticker?"
Where's the ticker?
The ticker is gone.
It's right here.
The ticker. Are you counting the time, Ross? Are you counting the time?
On my heart. Yeah, I'm counting the minutes too. I'm also counting the minutes. Always counting the minutes.
All right, there's the ticker.
All right,
and it's ticking.
Good. Now we can relax.
All right.
Relax into this conversation.
All right, we're good. Yeah, Colin just said we're back to CNN, so there we go. It's interesting. You mentioned you mentioned The Exorcist, and Lee J. Cobb was also in The Exorcist.
That's right. Lee J. Cobb was in The Exorcist. He was in a lot of things. I mean, he's best known. He broke in as Willie Loman for Death of a Salesman, the Arthur Miller play. He played him on stage, and he made a lot of movies. Nominated for an Oscar twice. He was also in Brothers Karamazov. He played the dad. And the brothers were Yul Brynner, William Shatner, and Richard Basehart.
Yep. Yeah. I know you've got Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea represented. You've got Star Trek, and then you've also got The King.
The King and I. Westworld.
Westworld. Yeah, you got three elements of sci-fi right there.
Yeah. And 12 Angry Men. He was in 12 Angry Men, and everybody was in that movie.
Yeah, he was juror number 3.
Did you look that up, or is this like a Rain Man thing?
No, I actually researched bore we did the show.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize he was juror number 3. So you trumped me.
Yeah.
You did it again, Roy. Always have to have the last word.
No, not really, Ross. Let's talk music. There
Let's
you go.
talk music. All right. That means the show's almost over. I'm good with that. But yeah, Lee J. Cobb. Oh yeah, and On the Waterfront. He played Friendly. What's his name? Joe Friendly, was that what it was? Yeah, with Brando and so Johnny Friendly. I can't remember that.
The caliber of actors in this film was pretty intense. I mean, and then
a lot of character actors, a lot of actors that we know from TV, but I mean a lot of actors that also did movies back into the 40s, turned up in this film. But you realize it's only 20 years ago. In 1966, it wasn't that long before. What do we have here?
Oh, we're doing a form of advertising.
It's like it's turning into the Jerry Lewis telethon.
Hopefully we don't tick off any of our viewers tonight.
We need more banners and more advertising, more self-promotion.
That'll be the show, Ross. We won't even be discussing anything. It'll just be one big advertisement.
We just won't show up when it'll be like the Yule log. We'll just put it up there. It'll just be playing Peter Gunn on constant loop until it gets shut down for violating copyright before the AI gets it. Yeah.
And then we can play the Adagio G minor.
Oh, the Adagio. Yeah. The Albinoni Adagio. Inside joke there.
Yeah. Anyway, Vince is commenting, and that's the reason why I threw it up there. He said you should add your links, YouTube, Twitter, etc., to the ticker. So anyway, thanks, Vince.
All right, next week.
So everybody has Vince to blame for having to see that all night now. Vince also commented, 12 Angry Men, fantastic film. Brennan is saying, I watched The Brothers Karamazov for William Shatner. I didn't read the book until later. Yeah, interesting enough in regards to that, Brennan. I remember actually getting a video tape copy of that film just because I wanted to see it because William Shatner was in it. And yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. And now that you mentioned videotape, back to the Dane curse. If you ever find it on videotape at a thrift store or whatever, don't get it because it's cut. Apparently, it's abridged on videotape. It's only when they put it out on DVD that they have the complete series, miniseries, the 3-episode miniseries, 3 nights. So,
yeah.
But if you're going to stream it, don't bother. Yeah. What's that?
I really want to check that out. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be worth streaming.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Martin saying the show is brought to you by Galaxy Cold Cream. Yeah. Anyway, also I forgot to mention Gila Golan and Edward Mulhare. She was an Israeli model, I guess, a fashion model.
Yeah. And then a Holocaust survivor. Did you read that?
No, I did not.
She was discovered in a rail station on a railroad platform in a bag. I guess her parents must have bagged her up or something. She was just left, and a couple adopted her during the war. Got her out of the country, and afterwards she lived in an orphanage, but they got her through the war, and then she became a fashion model and a beauty contestant.
Yeah,
she competed for Miss World.
She came in second with that, and then I guess she wound up coming to New York, and was on a contract with, and then I guess she was discovered, and then signed a contract with Columbia because they discovered her while she was in New York, and then the rest was kind of history with that.
Yeah, she married very well. She married some, mogul.
I guess she married the mogul who was in charge of Columbia, or one of the head honchos of Columbia.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so she did all right, and then she was in Valley of Gwangi. The Valley of Gwangi, I say.
Oh yes,
the
yes.
Harryhausen movie with the dinosaur and the Wild West show.
Right.
Which we have to do someday.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the last films she did. It was late 1960s, 1968.
Yeah, James Franciscus. Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, so we have to check that one out.
We know him from the Planet of the Apes movies.
Right. It's basically King Kong in a Wild West show with dinosaurs.
They could
what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, you never said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then of course Edward Mulhare. Wow, I mean he actually started out. He wanted to be in medicine, pursue a career in medicine, and then while doing that, he decided to switch over to theater, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, and then he was in wasn't The Ghost of Mrs. Muir? Wasn't he the captain?
He was.
Yeah, okay.
But even before then, on stage, he actually started out as he originated the role. I guess Rex Harrison originally had it, and then what happened was, and this is for the original show running, he then he was in, what was it, My Fair Lady, right?
My Fair Lady, yeah. So he played Henry Higgins, yeah.
So I thought
he was in a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of these guys, if you go back and look at their credits, it's crazy, that they're. But actors, they jump from project to project. They're making a living, and it's funny to see that somebody who would be in Orson Welles' Mercury Theater would turn up in our Man Flint. Who was in? Who was it that was in Orson Welles' Mercury Theater? Somebody was.
No, it was. You're right. It was Edward Mulhare.
Oh, was it Edward Mulhare?
It was Edward Mulhare. He
Wow.
actually did that with him, and I know Bill is a huge Orson Welles fan. So, and I
Hmm.
think if I remember correctly, Laurence Olivier was directing that performance. And let me see here from my memory, my Rain Man memory,
Yeah, you might be
and
combining two memories, but that's still pretty impressive. If you worked with Wells and Olivier.
yeah, in fact, I always pronounce his name incorrectly, but John Guild, who was in Arthur,
Oh,
he was involved.
Gielgud.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was also involved within that production. So, and
Oh,
that was, yeah, that was back in the 1950s, I believe, and it
okay.
was 1951, and yeah,
Because Gielgud had a long running uh, production of Hamlet on Broadway. I know, so it wasn't that, was it? That Mulhare would have been involved in any way.
I'm not sure. Actually, what was it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
we can
definitely.
you can research that on your
Yeah.
own time. But that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it figures. You're doing stage and you're working with these people, but it's nice to get a television series and be able to put away a check for a couple of seasons. You know,
Well, and to your point, I mean, he was known for doing The Ghost of Mrs. Muir. He did that for 2 years. Charles Nelson Riley, Hope
right,
Lang was also the female star of that show. And the interesting thing is, Rex Harrison, who he actually worked with on Broadway, he actually had originated the movie of The Ghost of
right,
Mrs.
right.
Muir.
With Gene Kearney, right, right. Bernard Herrmann did the music for that one, right?
Oh, okay. So there's
And
that
George
connection
Sanders is
right
in it.
there.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
comments coming in. I see that Ruby Rage is joining us on YouTube. Ruby, thank you for joining us. Nice to see you out there. Ruby commented and said the Dane curse. So that was just a comment. I wanted to put it out there. Martin actually commented and he said 36, 25, 43, 15, 34, 12. Martin's reciting the code there. So just putting that out there. And Vince is saying he is now watching now on the tube of you, and he's saying hello to Bill. So thank you, Vince and Bill, for being out there. Appreciate it. And Vince is saying also John Houseman. He commented about that.
Oh yeah, John Houseman worked with Orson Welles for a while. Yeah, until they had a split. Might have been after The Cradle Will Rock. I can't remember. They didn't see eye to eye on everything. Yeah.
It happens. And Martin is commenting saying, yes, he was in The Ghost of Mrs. Muir. He was later on Knight Rider. Yeah, we'll get to that as well, too.
Right.
And Bill is also commenting saying that Vince had played John Houseman in Jersey Diner. And he said, right on about that. So, yes.
I told you that John Houseman did that. I think it was canola oil. I think he did a commercial here at Princeton University that back when probably around the time they did the Paper Chase TV series.
Oh yeah,
or
really?
possibly just before, or maybe after the movie. Yeah, it's on YouTube if you want to see John Houseman selling canola oil at Princeton.
Oh, wow,
you're gonna enjoy that. Yeah.
He always just seemed very like, what's the word I want? Just like a person of authority. Just the way, even just
Right.
him talk and the way he came across, and just the way, just his delivery.
Yeah, of
Just,
course. Yeah.
Ruby is saying the Dane curse is free on YouTube. Okay, cool. Thanks, Ruby. Thanks for pointing that out. Very, very cool. So yeah, good stuff out there. All righty, well, let me do this. I'm going to share a few slides just to bring our viewers in, something we haven't done. So anyway, in regards to that, here we go. Now this film was actually produced. This film was created in was filmed in 1965. It actually debuted, interesting enough, on January 16th of 1966, which is exactly 56 and 8 months to the day ago.
The 8 months is always
that's the killer.
Important to get down. How many minutes?
I'm not sure. But anyway.
So how many James Bond films were out by then?
There there
Because
would have been.
Thunderball came out the same year, I guess. So I guess they probably had 3 of them at the time that they were writing this.
No, Ross, you know what? There would have been 4 out already.
Oh,
62.
Thunderball was out already?
Thunderball came out in 65. Goldfinger came out in 64. From Russia with Love came out in
You're
63. And
right.
Dr. No came out in 62.
Right. Okay. Thunderball is 65.
Yeah.
So, because you already see, I mean, there are plenty of parallels. We can run through those parallels if you went with the Bond series. Whenever you feel appropriate, we'll just start bouncing them back and forth. I don't want to get ahead of anything. If you've got slides or something.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah.
Hey, I also see that there's somebody joining us. I'm not sure about their name, but it's coming up as Sparrowside, and then said, "I finally got the technology to work. Thank you for joining us." Saying, "I hope Coburn got a scale for Golan Heights." And Vince said he likes the transition with the slides. Thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. Now, as we like to say on the show, all roads do lead to Star Trek. And in this case, this is not any different with this movie. And actually, actor Peter Bracco was in classic Star Trek. In fact, he was in an episode of, which was pretty much a very well known, and it set the stage for the introduction of the Klingons, and it was called Errand of Mercy. And he's the gentleman that's actually on the left side of that photo, and which was definitely a fan favorite. Interesting about him, though, he did a lot of stuff, a lot of credits to his name, dating back. In fact, Bill, I'm going to throw this out there too, because I'm thinking of Gina. He actually did 2 episodes of The Adventures of Superman, because we know Gina loves how much she loves it. And interesting enough, he died in both of those episodes, and he was playing a heavy, and that was something that did not occur very often. And one of the episodes was in regards to The Secret of Superman, where he actually deduces and figures out that Clark Kent is actually Superman.
You see the one that he leaves on top of the mountain when they're on the way back from the Fortress of Solitude?
I was actually wondering if that's the episode, because I remember that. Yeah, and then he falls. Yes,
falls
I know. And actually, in that episode, it was a black and white episode. It was a husband and wife, and he leaves them up like on this mountain, and he tells them not to leave. And what happens is they try to, and then they both drop. So yeah, because they know his identity. So yes, I think it is that episode, Ross.
Yeah, Superman.
And then also,
yeah.
And then there was another episode in which he was also in which he actually didn't make it as well too. So that was very interesting that as a villain that he actually died in Superman. But anyway,
yeah, it's kind of low humor in this film. It's not like the most sophisticated humor, but his character, they have the Asian character, the actor Benson Fong, and you have Peter Bracco, and he's Dr. Wu, and
right.
And Benson Fong is Dr. Schneider, so they pull a little reversal on you. That's not the only time that's ever been done, but it was mildly amusing. Yeah, Benson Fong, he was one of those kind of actors that really benefited from, we'd be horrified today. Like anybody from a younger generation wouldn't understand this at all, but he really benefited from kind of being cast as the all-purpose Asian. They kind of, okay, we need a Japanese, we need a Filipino, we need a Chinese, an American-born, of Chinese descent. But he did very well for himself, apparently. And later in life, he made Keys to the Kingdom with Gregory Peck, and Gregory Peck said to him, we should open a restaurant. and so Fong thinks, oh yeah, that'd be great. So he opened this restaurant called Ah Fong was the name of the restaurant. Very successful restaurant, and it became a franchise. And he got the Ah Fong apparently from an O. Henry candy bar. He just liked the O. Henry, so he made it Ah Fong. And so he spent the last decades of his life managing this restaurant.
Really? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I thought I'd bring that up.
No, that is cool. And it is very interesting to find out about the backgrounds of the different individuals, especially the supporting actors, because a lot of times they don't make it to be like leading man type of characters or make it to the star ranks. However, without the supporters, you really would never have a story, because you need the background performers. So as case in point.
Sure. And before anybody misunderstands. I'm not trying to be Pollyanna about the plight of Asian actors or whatever. There were plenty that went through awful things, but he had a very happy, very fortunate life in Hollywood.
Yeah, so it's good to hear that there was a positive story with that.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I wanted to go back to Peter Bracco, one of the things that he did also too is he did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He was involved in that. He also was involved in Spartacus, and I guess and as well as a lot of the television series that were a part of that day. So he really was somebody you would definitely see within his career of almost like over 40 years. So I thought that was pretty impressive in regards to that.
So we named the 2 doctors now.
Yes.
The 3rd doctor was Rhys Williams, who I recognized immediately. He's in so many movies of the 1940s. I mean, this guy is in... I always thought he had a very contemporary face. He's a Welsh actor, but I always felt like he was out of place in the old movies because he always had his hair all standing up, and he's like kind of balding and thinned on top, and his hair is standing up. And he always didn't look like the guys that were all put together with the Brill cream and the fedoras and the shoulder pads, and they're putting on the build. You got all these out of shape guys looking like they're. It's like kind of like the same principle of the Star Trek: The Next Generation uniforms. You put them on, and everybody's like, it's like that in the 40s for everybody. Yeah. But he was in How Green Was Our Valley. He was in Mrs. Miniver. He was in Random Harvest. He was in so many classic movies, and so here he plays the third scientist, Dr. Krupov. So
the trio of terror, so to speak.
Yeah, which is funny, the trio of terror, but ironically, they had this vision of this Edenic, like an Eden, the whole like a peaceful existence. Supposedly, they want to get rid of the nukes. They go to the Galaxy Island, and it's just like some pleasure paradise. Everybody's doing sports and
drugs, rock and roll.
Drugs, and eating bananas.
It was the 1960s, Ross. It had 60s written all over it.
dancing, go dancing. It was, but no, we didn't. Coburn didn't want that. He didn't want their vision of utopia, so he blew it up.
What the hell was wrong with him?
Spoiler alert.
Oh shoot. Shari's joining us. Hey, hon. She's saying, hey, guys, just tuning in now. Was having technical difficulties. Gotta love technology. Technical difficulties. Whoever has that going on. Bill just commented too. And you know what? I forgot I can do this. This is kind of cool. So I forgot one of the benefits of being able to do. So Bill is saying, I remember the Mountain episode. Yep. Superman usually did not allow villains to die. Yeah. Very true.
That's what made it so nasty.
We're all scarred from that. That really bothered me as a kid.
It bothered me too.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, when you think about it, how this, they say about kids being impressionable by different things and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a good example. It was just it's funny. Out of all the episodes of Superman, it's like we all tend to remember that because of it was just like so atypical.
We all complain about how dark Superman's become. Well, you always had that dark side, I guess.
Brennan is saying, did he try to throw his gun at Superman's chest when he ran out of bullets?
Exactly.
Oh boy. Let me see here. Don is commenting. He's saying, didn't pick this up as a kid, but did this movie have an Atlas Shrugged vibe going on in the second act?
Oh man, what, the Ayn Rand thing? Atlas Shrugged?
I'm not sure. That's a good quote.
The second act.
Yeah.
I never read Atlas Shrugged. What did I read by her? I read Anthem, her slenderest book. So I'm not really sure. I know enough of the Fountainhead from having seen the movie, but yeah, I've never. I don't know the Atlas Shrugged reference. See that? How poorly read I am.
That's all right. I'm not getting it either. I'm not sure. Good. Thanks for presenting the question, Don. And
too thoughtful for us.
Yeah, too much. Sparicide said Coburn got to take ecstasy and Viagra before they existed before going to the pleasure room.
Coburn didn't need ecstasy and Viagra. At least not back then. That chair stunt he did.
Yeah.
With the head and the feet. I'm watching. I'm thinking, okay, so they have him on a board, propped up on the chair or what have you. And it's like, all right, did they cut? When he gets up, you don't see the board. So did they cut away? No, this is actually something that he knew how to do, where he puts his
There
head
he
on the
is.
chair. Yeah, on the right there. The head on the chair and the feet on the other chair. This is something that Coburn could do because of all the Viagra and ecstasy.
Sparrowside is Matt. It's Matt. You know what? It had the vibes of being Matt, and I was even going to say, "Is that Matt?" But then why am I not surprised? Matt is coming to us in YouTube, folks.
He slipped in under a pseudonym, the Alan Smithy.
Oh boy. And then there's the proof of the pudding.
Right. You blew it, Matt. You could have really taken it far.
Oh boy.
Yeah, not any further than you do, though.
There you go.
So,
but anyway, so just to remind our viewers of the different folks that are in this film before we start getting into the nitty gritty and the details of the film, let's get there. So anyway.
Yes.
So James Coburn. With Coburn, you got to love the teeth. The teeth just shine.
Or the voice. Oh my
God.
The
voice.
Where's he keeping it? He's so thin.
I know.
Where's that voice coming from? He's like so cavernous. He must hollow out into like the fifth dimension or something.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's funny because I actually said this to Ross earlier, and Matt and I are in agreement. Coburn really looks like Lurch on those chairs. Didn't I say that to you, Matt, or to Ross earlier? Remember?
You did, absolutely. He could have Coburn. If it's one of those things. But for chance, Coburn could have been in the Addams Family.
He really could have.
But better things in store, I guess.
Yeah.
But this is his big breakout film. He'd been in big films before, big movies before this. Of course, Magnificent Seven. He was in The Great Escape. He was in like an ensemble actor, and he was in Charade. He was one of the villains in that film with George Kennedy, and I get that one mixed up with the one with Audrey Hepburn, where she's blind and she's being terrorized by Alan Arkin and Crenna, James Crenna.
Oh, you mean Richard Crenna?
Richard Crenna. What did I say?
James.
Richard Crenna. Yeah, I get that mixed. Charade and it's not Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, is it? What is the one? Blake Edwards movie where Audrey Hepburn is the blind woman and she's being terrorized by Crenna.
I know what you're talking about. It's Wait Until Dark. Jeff
Wait Until Dark. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, he plays one of the trio of villains, I think, in Charade. Oh, there we go. Because, of course, Wait Until Dark is totally different. I'd love to do that next month if we could find the original TV movie with Kim Darby.
Oh, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
The little carrot people.
Yeah, that was like
Sally. It's like we want your soul. Yeah, exactly.
They're whispering under the steps. They actually did a remake to that film, and some things are better left alone.
Although Del Toro produced it, but I can't imagine it's any good.
It was all right. It wasn't the original, that's for sure.
Yeah.
In fact, I can't think of the actor. James Hutton was the lead in that with Kim Darby. Kim Darby was in Star Trek. Yep.
Right. And William Demarest, if I recall, if I remember, Uncle Charlie, from all the Preston Sturges movies. Yeah.
Claudia's saying, talking about things actors could do, Kirk Douglas jumping oars in the Vikings.
I would love to do the Vikings. I know it's not science fiction, but I love that movie.
That's another one.
Odin. I can grow my Ernest Borgnine beard back for that one.
Heck, you could grow your James Coburn beard. I always thought of him. It was really weird to see him clean shaven because, when he did these movies, because later in his life, he always had that beard. Remember?
Yeah, he always did seem to have that. You're right. Well, this was kind of like, this is the film I think that everybody kind of associated him with for a long time, or the character.
Right.
But he didn't really receive he received accolades, but the awards seemed to come later, much later than you would think for him. It was really in the 2000s that he started to win.
Well, yeah, because he got the Academy Award.
Right.
Hey, I want to welcome Chris, and his nickname is The Shadow. So, Chris, welcome. Thanks for being out there. And Chris was actually waiting, looking forward to this. Chris is joining us actually from Florida. So good to see you out there, Chris. I hope you're doing okay too. Good to see you. Yeah. So he finally
So
got the Academy Award,
yeah,
which
he won for Best Supporting Actor for Affliction, and
yeah,
then he won. I didn't realize he won an Emmy for. I don't know if you remember The Mists of Avalon, which was based on the popular Arthurian novel. Is it Marion Zimmer Bradley? Is she the one that wrote that? Am I mixing up my authors? But
I'm not.
anyway, he was the producer for that, you know,
Mm.
and that he won an Emmy for having produced that miniseries.
Sadly, though, he went through a lot of pain because he had actually had rheumatoid arthritis, and it really prevented him from working for quite a long time. And then what happened was I guess he got some kind of holistic type of remedy. It didn't exactly make the arthritis go away, but it gave him relief, so he was
Mm.
actually able to return. But he really died. I mean, he died at a young age. I think he was only like maybe about 74.
Yeah, earlier than you would have expected.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's very sad. Matt is saying, William Demarest, what did you do, miss? Don't open that door in the basement.
It'll stab you with a screwdriver.
Glad to hear it, Chris. Glad to hear it. That's good. Yeah. So anyway, about James Coburn, and then we were talking about Lee J. Cobb a little while ago. You know, he's a part of this film. Got second billing. I had a laugh though because when I think of him in this role, it almost reminds me of sort of like the later Pink Panther films. Well, that
Yeah,
was to evolve with the boss and how much he couldn't
yeah.
stand Clouseau.
Herbert
Only with
Lom. Yeah,
only with Lee J. Cobb's character, it's like he knew Flint was the man and he was good, and it drove him crazy. And even Flint like taunting him when
yeah.
he was telling him that he was the man for the job, and Flint didn't want to go back, and he was basically telling the generals, I don't want to talk to you. It's like almost like talk to the hand, type of maneuvers. You go.
Yeah,
He'd walk away and he'd start smiling with his, all of his teeth showing and everything.
yeah. That dynamic is such a it's been done so many times.
Yeah.
Where he was his old commanding officer from the war, and of course Coburn being Coburn, never followed regulations and did what he wanted to do. Would go rogue as he is this whole movie. The whole movie is so anti-establishment all the time. Just like he said, "Oh, I don't want to live in your world" or whatever. He blows up the island. Everything he does is like, "Oh, that's not the way I work. I work alone. I don't follow."
He's not a team player. He's
Yeah,
got
can
his
you
own
give me more
team.
1960s?
I'm going to jump ahead and say this. This is what Coburn thought in regards to teamwork right here.
That was the extent. That was the extent of his teamwork. Sorry, ladies. You're so canceled, Roy.
Oh well.
You're going so well, and then first night on YouTube. Oh my goodness. Self-immolated.
You got to be able to laugh, and then of course there's the constant James Bond in our references, just because this is obviously a takeoff on James Bond, a satire on James Bond.
Except
But
he has to out Bond all the time, which is why that's why he's living with 4 women. Yeah.
And then we even have a 008.
008, remember?
Or excuse me, 0008.
Yeah.
0008. Excuse me.
Right.
008.
So they managed to find somebody who was a pretty good approximation of Connery.
And then he even has a book out.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is when Gila, she's reading the book and she's like, a man like this doesn't exist, and she throws the book. It's
right. And he does a little bit of a Connery impression too. You can hear the accent and everything. And all the bad guys have the bad guy uniforms like they always do in the Bond movies.
Exactly.
And and even to the point where, even though it's like this international ring of that make up the villains, all the equipment is labeled in English, which is exactly what happened in Dr. No. I don't know if you remember, everything was labeled in Dr. No.
Which made no sense whatsoever.
Which made no sense. So
And this
Oh,
was obviously a takeoff on Doctor No.
and what's his face? Mulhare had the gauntlet there that he was using
Right.
to swing around. And I mean, how many Bond villains do you have with the appendage or whatever?
Well, Doctor No didn't he?
Yeah, Doctor No did, and later you had Odd Job with the hat. There's and Jaws with the teeth. There's always
Yeah.
some kind of you know every villain has to have their henchman who has the angle.
Yeah, they've got a they got an
Yeah.
accessory. Jeffrey will just reminded us that the suits will be coming.
The thought suits. I mean, that's perfect with that cat too. in the profile pic.
Whoops, I lost you, Ross. Hang on one second.
What? I'm
Are you
still here.
There? Are you still there? Are we still
I
broadcasting?
don't know if anybody else is still there, but
Oh shoot! I don't know if yeah, I think we're
it
still
says
there.
live.
Well, that's good. That's a plus. Let's see. Deborah commented. She also said the brothers Karamazov, Lee J. Cobb. Yeah,
Right.
which is really cool. Again,
Yeah, this was like really slumming, I think, for Lee J. Cobb, considering his acting credits, and then suddenly he plays like J. Jonah Jameson, basically.
But I think he was actually having fun, and I'm
I
very
do too. Yeah.
I'm looking forward when we do the second, when we do the sequel to this film, because it'll be interesting. Now, do you know if he was in the second one or you don't?
I think he is. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. So that's good. So that pretty much,
which is why I could never tell them apart. Yeah. Yeah. In my mind, they're just kind of slurred together.
Martin is saying that was his own United Nation, meaning Coburn. And then of course Matt is reminding us of the famous quote of the movie: "You are not pleasure units until I say you are."
No, that's absolutely right, Matt, because he goes around and says that. It's so hypocritical. I mean, because the movie, they're just objects in the movie. They just totally treat them like they're pleasure units. The irony, the way they're filmed and the way they're,
Chris is saying, "Don't be sorry. Those girls got married between the first and second film."
Okay, all the Coburn. No, some of them got married to Chad Everett and Bob Crane.
That's right. Yep. And the one was Bob Crane's wife was a regular on Hogan's Heroes.
Right. Is it Hilda? Is that what it was?
I think so. Yeah.
And another one of them married Chad Everett. Shelby Grant. Leslie, the one that played Leslie.
Okay.
So, not that would, they don't give him a lot to do in the movie, so
yeah.
Just basically
don't say it. Window dressing.
Don't say. I'm not going to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, somebody was commenting earlier on the show's page about it would be great to see this type of film, remade. This type of film, unfortunately, I do not believe would
no
attest to time. I mean, 2022.
Yeah.
There would be too much. It just wouldn't happen.
It would have a totally different tone, and you can't get another actor like Coburn. You're not going to be able to recreate. I think even if they tried to make it retro and tongue in cheek, they'd have a hard time doing it.
I mean, I don't want to go down this path, but even with James Bond, I mean, I very much liked what Daniel Craig did with the James Bond movies. Very much enjoyed them up until this last Bond film. And I mean, I know there's folks out there that have not seen it, so I'm not going to do any spoilers. But with that said, Ryan, just talking about Ryan for a second, James Bond is on his anti-bucket list. He does not want to see a James Bond movie. So I'm literally going to have to hold him down and say, you must watch Bond. And he's going to laugh at me.
Get him to watch this. Yeah.
He probably would rather watch Star Trek than James Bond. But the point is that it's a shame that the direction of the movie is gone, and they supposedly do want to make another one, and I'm fearful of what they're going to do next. I mean, I don't know. Next year would have been the 60th anniversary of the James Bond films because it came out no. What am I saying? This year is the 60th anniversary. 1962 is when the first James Bond movie came out, and I don't know. I wish that the last film that they did it had been done differently, but
well, it had a good run.
It did. It did.
It's not like they did. It's not like there aren't a bunch of Bond films to go back and watch and enjoy. I haven't seen it, so I can only read between the lines.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I never had a lot invested. Like I said, there are a lot of Bond fans out there. I understand that, but it's never. It's always like, well, what's at the movies? Oh, Bond show, and I'll go see it. I was never
Yeah.
like, oh boy, it's a new James Bond. So
See, I always enjoyed the James Bond films though.
yeah,
But
people do. People do it. I was always scratching my head. It's
yeah.
wasn't really my thing. I mean, I understand during the Cold War why it would have the appeal that it did, in the '60s. But then it just kind of became, their entertainment is what they
Yeah.
were. By the time Roger Moore was there, it was
Well, that
just
was
totally
very
tongue in cheek. And
yeah.
I didn't see
Definitely.
what the comment was. Was it Austin Powers' comment?
Yeah. Martin said Austin Powers did a takeoff of this film.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
I've never seen the Austin Powers films either, and but I did see a clip where Austin Powers says about In Like Flint comes up on TV, the sequel. He goes, "It's my favorite movie." So,
Yeah. A
so
nod.
I know.
Claudia's saying 62 or 63. Yeah, Claudia, it's 1962 for Doctor No. 63 was From Russia with Love, and then 64 was
Hmm.
Goldfinger. So yeah, it's interesting. They were making a think about it. They were making a Bond film like literally year after year.
Yeah.
But
Oh, there we go. There's a vote for Timothy Dalton. Yeah, I thought he was good too. I mean, we
I,
have the same. Whenever we talk about Bond, we have the same conversations on this show.
well, it's relevant now because we're talking
All
about
right. Oh, yeah. Not a digression. In other
yeah,
words.
we're
Yeah.
digressing into Bond, but that's okay.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's
No,
allowed.
I like. I only saw the first one that he did. I liked him as Bond also, but a lot of people didn't. So
Yeah, and in regards to Timothy Dalton, Colin, I would say yeah, he was probably one of my favorites too because I really liked License to Kill. It's definitely one of my favorite movies.
he was the anti Roger Moore. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Amanda's joining us. Amanda, welcome. She's joining us from Australia, and she says, "I have to confess." Well, let me put this on the screen. I have to confess, I only watch it now for Edward Mulhare. It was okay at the time, but love Edward. We never really saw his full potential in movies. He was well and truly typecast. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would I would agree with that.
Well, it is a different era. But that's the thing. Like watching the Bond films when they were kind of new, I was always kind of, I was like that emoticon she put up with the teeth. It's
Yeah, yeah.
like, I never could understand with all the womanizing, and it's like why are these things popular? Why do women like these movies? I was puzzled. I was a puzzled person. So
Because he's
little
Bond.
person. What's that?
Because he's Bond.
Because he's Bond. Yeah, I was never a Bond guy.
Just like Coburn is Flint. It just says it.
Yeah, yeah, and the gadgetry. We have the nod to Bond with his Living Daylights, exactly. Dalton, uh, with his lighter, with the 82 deadly functions, or 83 if you try to light a cigar with it or whatever he says.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So,
But
but and,
Sean Chris is saying two words. Sean Connery. There you go.
and even outright reference Spectre. Coburn says, oh, they're bigger than Spectre or something like, or the Bond lookalike. I can't remember. Somebody references Spectre.
Well, it's 008 because they're in that fight scene where
Yeah.
essentially what happens is should we go to the plot, Ross? This whole thing. Let's
Do we
let's
have
do
to? All right, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Let's do
This is where this is where I get to take a break.
it. I mean, it opens up essentially with the weather being controlled and the
How prescient is that?
yeah
The whole climate change thing.
yeah
And I don't know if you saw the Avengers movie, which I did not. The one that Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman and Connery
hmm
were all in. But Connery's character was controlling the weather in that movie, the villain. So here we have a film that parodies, Bond's Connery's Bond, and they're using the weather. So I mean, totally coincidental, but yeah, I thought that was really timely actually because they were terrified about the water covering up the coastal cities. It's like, oh well, welcome to 2022.
which is interesting too because it all of that links directly into what's going on now.
Yeah.
and it's 57.
And but it's not a
57
parody
years later.
now.
But yeah, now it's not a parody; it's a reality.
Yeah.
But yeah, and how many times have weather control devices been used? We've seen that done in countless films. One of the TV series that comes immediately to mind is the $6 Million Man, the Bionic Woman, which had John Houseman is the villain, and also it was the episodes with the fembots. So
Fembots.
yeah,
Yeah, this movie needed more fembots.
it really did.
Plot array.
Plotter
Don't encourage them.
and Vince, an hour into the show, time to start the plot.
Yeah, I know. It's time for my siesta.
Chris is saying never saw the Avengers movie. Your eyes will be
Yeah, that's why I kind of avoided it. Yeah,
it's all right. So anyway, with that said, now Derek Flint, his first and last name, was a member of the agency which is called Zonal Organization World Intelligent Espionage, and it's Zoe.
Zowie for short. Yeah,
for short. Yeah,
the acronym. Yeah.
So, but anyway, what happens is they actually are sending in a team to try to take this organization out, which the organization's name is called Galaxy. So you've got Spectre from the James Bond films, and you've got Galaxy with this. And Lee J. Cobb's character, Cramden, essentially sends in a team and thinks that they're going to infiltrate and prevent this from going on. And then what happens is he gets a notification that the team has been basically taken out. Another team has been lost. So what he does is, while having a conference with the world leaders, he asks them to essentially identify all the member or a person that would be perfect for the job of trying to get in. And he wants this to be somebody that's not known, because somebody suggests 0008, but then they said that he's known by the through intelligence. So what happens is
so they all get to choose characteristics of what they think the ideal candidate would be. Yeah.
Exactly, and then they program it into the computer, and then what happens is the computer spits out Derek Flint, and Cramden, Lee J. Cobb's character, is essentially, he's like, no way. It's like, no, I don't. Essentially, because he doesn't want to work with him, because again, as Ross was saying, he doesn't want to follow the book. Everything is, there's no what's the old saying? There's no I in team. Well, there's no team in I. You know what I mean? For Flint, he's totally by himself, and he just doesn't obey orders. If you say, up, he'll say, or you say go to the fifth floor, he'll say, no, I'm going to go to the fourth floor. Always trying to what he feels to be outdone. And as a result of that, after the information is being compiled by the computer, each world leader keeps coming at Cramden, Lee J. Cobb, and then saying, we want Flint. This is who the computer, chose. And after he finds out that the team was killed, and then the president of the United States is involved. And interesting enough, the president of the United States, do you know who was doing that voice?
I do. Oh, I have to say it?
Yeah.
It was Van Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had actually done
the
Green Hornet, and he had actually done that voice in the Batman movie.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
which I thought was kind of cool, because he did it for both. And every time he calls Cramden, that phone goes off, and it's just like this very annoying type of ring. And it was funny. One of the notes that I came across, Ross, do you remember Rick Dees back in the 80s and the 90s?
Who was it?
Rick Dees. He was a DJ that
yeah.
And he would always do like the top 40, the weekly top 40. He would actually in the middle of his shtick, his phone would go off, and then he would say it's like the president calling or whatever. But he used that ringtone for the.
Oh, did he? Yeah. Actually, yeah. It's such a simple gag, but I thought that was I chuckled every time the hotline went off.
Yeah,
it just has such a goofy ring. Yeah,
it really was
such a distinctive ring. Did they lift it for Austin Powers? So, like some other movies lifted the ring for use, and I haven't seen the movies, but I know they've used it in other things.
Exactly.
Maybe BJ Cobb makes me chuckle. Maybe that's it. His reaction. Yeah.
He really sells it because he really does not want to deal with Flint, and then he tries sending in, the president insists that he has to use him, and he sends in his generals to try to get him, and essentially they come back without him. So he approaches Flint, and Flint essentially toys with him. In fact, it's funny because he sees him banging on his door, and then at one point he gets into his apartment and he's talking to him and he's raising his hands, and then he says, to lower his hands very slowly because his dog Caesar is going to essentially, you know, jump on top of him and tear him to shreds because he may be misinterpreted as like a villain. And, and you can see the fear, and then he puts his hands down, and then Flint goes, okay, Caesar, go ahead, thank you, and he's just like toying with him the entire time.
Well, in the meantime, too, when he sends his emissaries, like at one point the general goes to try to recruit him, and he keeps like kind of brushing everybody off, but he's always engaged in all these different activities.
Yep.
Like he's a karate master and he's a master swordsman. He's kind of like a Doc Savage kind of character, where he's in the skyscraper in New York, this penthouse, But and he's a nuclear physicist, and he does all these different things. Except he's James Bond instead.
Right.
He's like the debonair kind of Bond character. But yeah, he can stop his heart. He can meditate to the point where he can stop his heartbeat. And yeah, so Cobb isn't the first one there. But finally, when he gets there, as you say, he toys with him with the whole attack dog thing.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, like you brought up, because after he agrees, he agrees to it. He comes to the agency. He signs him on board, and then what happens is he leaves the boardroom, and as he leaves the boardroom, he sees that there's two soldiers that are planted within the corridor, and he immediately attacks the one, and then the other one tries, the two of them try to take him down, and he winds up shooting both of them. And then at one point, then Cobb comes out, and then he karate chops him, and he goes, it's good to see you're still practicing your karate or keeping up on it. And then essentially what happens is he tells them that they were mismarked with the insignias that were on their uniform, and that's how he was able to detect that they were not actually real agents and part of the military. And then they find the men essentially in the closet, and the one is dead.
Yeah.
And then the other one, he said he can bring him back, and what he does is he takes the light bulb out of the socket, and he says, "Put your finger in there, or put your hand into there." And then what happens is Lee J. Cobb's character Cramden is essentially getting the charge while that's going on. In fact,
and he holds Coburn holds his hand, and then he touches the chest of the guy who's blacked out,
right?
Who's slowly reviving, and starts his heart. Yeah. Only Coburn could have sold this thing. This could have been the dumbest pick. If it had been directed like Doc Savage, it would have been just like total eyeball roll,
Well, that's just it, Ross.
We go with it,
You really buy into. He sells it. He does sell it. He is Flint, and he plays it straight, and it works. It's granted, it is I'll say a parody to a level. It is, but it's not. But the way it's delivered, all the components are in place, and it's entertaining, it's fun, and it's not like one of those movies that you go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is just like, really, yeah, it's not like
we've done a few of those.
Yeah.
Is that your fuse?
Is it Christmas yet?
Is it Christmas yet? Christmas is coming, Roy. I'm not even going to suggest which one I want to do on Christmas because I know you'll be so angry. But I'll be thinking it.
Oh. Amanda's commenting. She said, apparently they asked Edward to appear in Austin Powers as a tribute to his part in the film, but he was too ill. That would have been cool, though. That would have been cool. Sorry to hear that. Don said, fun and very colorful. Yeah, no, it definitely was. What was the other thing I wanted to say? I was on track. Oh, so essentially then, one of the things that I forgot to bring up too is when Cramden, Lee J. Cobb is actually going to meet with Flint. he's at that restaurant and he gets darted, and Flint winds up saving his life.
Right, the poison dart.
The poison dart, which is
Right.
delivered by Gilla,
Yeah,
and
off a harp, using a harp as a
using
bow.
a harp. How apropos, right?
Yeah.
But he saves his life, and then one of the things that he says to him too is he says, thanks, I owe you for saving my life, and the doctors tell me that if you hadn't done it in as quickly as you did, I would have been dead in 4 seconds. And then Flint goes 3, and then he says to him, he said, "Damn it, is there anything that you don't know?" And he goes, "Plenty, sir, plenty." But anyway.
Is that the end?
And that's the end, Ross. That's it.
Good night.
So anyway,
yeah.
Go to the shout outs. There you go. But anyway, so he agrees to go on the mission. Everything is set up, but he insists that he's going to do it on his own. He's going to arrange his own transportation. He doesn't want anything being done. This is after he revives one of the men. Cramden kind of backs off. Lee J. Cobb backs off because he was wrong about the 2 security guards being infiltrated. And he goes to this, it's almost like a dive, essentially. And then Gilda is with Hans Gruber, which is cracking me up because I'm hearing this name, Hans Gruber, and I'm like, oh my God. And then immediately I'm thinking, okay, where do I know this name from? And of course, it's from Die Hard. And that name was also used in another movie as well, too.
It's such a quintessential German name, though. Yeah.
But still, I mean, it was.
Yeah. And he really looked like a Bond villain, but I don't think at that point there had been any, because Blofeld still had the hair at that point, didn't he? Was it
Blofeld was Telly Savalas in '69,
right? But you had Charles Gray played him. Right. He had the hair,
yeah.
But in '69, Pleasance didn't have the hair, right? At that point.
But he looked like a Blofeld type of character, at least.
He looked like that. Yeah. But I don't know if that was just a prescient or if they're.
Well, to be fair, this movie was made before the Bond film, so
right, exactly.
This could have set the stage for Bond.
And he drops the Bond ripped them all just to get back at him for the parody. I like how his monocle falls into the
drink.
It was a soup, wasn't it? It was the soup, what was it? He was looking for the recipe for the bouillon, not the bouillabaisse. What was it? Because they use in Marseille because there was that certain mixture of garlic and the herbs and everything that was only found in the bouillabaisse that was made in Marseille. Because of course he would know this. Flint knows this instantly from smelling it on the dart. Where the to the point where he could go from dive to dive until he sampling all the soups until he found the exact match for the.
He's like, there's only like one place or 2 places that this could have came from, or something like that. Just from the taste, the deduction.
Right.
Martin just said bouillabaisse.
Bouillabaisse. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Bouillabaisse.
Is that what it was? Bouillabaisse? I think so.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Yeah,
thanks, Martin.
Thank you.
And Brennan saying, I also enjoyed Man Named Flintstone when I was a kid. I remember that movie. I remember that very well. Yeah. And then Ruby sang saffron.
Saffron was one of the things that was in the ingredients, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So with that, he goes into the bathroom and then he tries to take him out. Oh, and before that scene even happens, what happens is that's where we're introduced to 008. And 008 starts this fight with, 008 is actually, it's almost like he's heckling one of the girls. And then what happens is Flint comes to the rescue and he starts, throwing punches. And then 008 is saying to Flint, I really wanted to work with you on this assignment as he's getting the tar beaten out of him. And then they're going back and forth and, slamming bottles over each other's heads. And then they're passing along information. And then this is where Flint finds out about that. It's, bigger than, this galaxy is bigger than Spectre. And then at the last, punch, he says, it's been great work. 008 says to Flint, it's been great working with you. And then what he does is he throws him out and he goes crashing out through the bar window or something.
Right. Because you know how that is in the Bond films. They're always, meeting up with the other agents and try not to blow their cover. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that really works out well with that. So with that, then it goes on, and
You're going to skip over the blackface scene, I guess.
oh, tell us about it, Ross.
No, it was walking the line. At first, I thought, oh boy, I hope, he just had kind of a dirt on his face, and he did the whole turned his jacket inside out and did the turban and everything. But so I'm glad they didn't go whole hog, because it's like, oh my god, we're gonna get into one of these things. But it was just a disguise, that
Right.
kind of changes complexion a little bit, but not to the degree that would have, I think, generated a lot of controversy. Maybe today, who knows?
Today it would have. Today it definitely would
but
have.
it was not on the level that it could have been.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Gillis essentially leaves a bomb, which is
Yeah.
in the form of it's in one of those bottles that has all the drugs in it and everything. And what is it? Ecstasy. It says ecstasy on the
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Matt's favorite. Yeah. It said ecstasy and Viagra. It said.
Yeah.
No,
And essentially it's a bomb. And what happens is he gets out of the way, out of cover, and she thinks that she's killed him. But she's very reluctant. She really doesn't want to kill him, because obviously she's the villainess, but she's highly attracted to Flint, and there's a certain amount of remorse. And even with Mulhair's character, who is Malcolm Rodney, that's his name, he's taunting her back and forth, because at one point they think that he was killed, and then they find out that he wasn't, and it's almost like she's not completing the mission the way she's supposed to. And that's kind of reminiscent of the earlier Bond films, where they're trying to take 007 out, and it's like every agent is sent in, from Spectre, and if they fail, then they die. It's kind of like that, and it's very reminiscent of that. But yeah, and that's also, what is it? It's supposed to be like a cold cream. So he actually winds up finally meeting up with her, and goes into her office and is demanding to talk to her. And pretty much it's almost like she's not hiding that she's an agent, and he's being very direct. And then she essentially says, you're gonna have to come with me to go to a different place. And then he's like, like a trap. And then she says, aren't you willing to take risks? And then she winds up going with it, or he winds up going with her, and then that essentially he has his way with her.
Well, I think it's mutual.
Yeah, it's definitely mutual. Yeah,
unlike with the ladies back at his place. Yeah. What are the pleasure units? Yeah.
Pleasure units. Catherine's joining us. Hey, Catherine, thank you for joining us. She's saying, "Oh, I'm late. Have to watch the rerun. I did see our Man Flint when it first came out in the Olden movie theater, just up the street from Marcos. The best tomato pies in Trenton. Both are gone now. So is Coburn. In Like Flint is a play on In Like Flynn, Earl Flynn, the greatest swashbuckler of all, and certainly an inspiration for Bond, Flint, and the rest. I'd love to tell you about that tie-in with Terrence Young, but I gotta go." Oh, okay.
No. Okay.
Thanks for dropping by, Catherine. We appreciate it. And feel free when you're watching the replay to comment in the comment section. Please do so. And we'd love to hear from you. And thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks. Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Maruka's in Trenton.
Are you aware of that place?
No, I'm sorry it doesn't exist, though, because I like a good tomato pie.
Tomato pie is really good.
Tomato pie.
Yeah.
Now I'm hungry for tomato pie.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Kumi's in Phillipsburg.
Are we allowed to do that? Or are you gonna get yanked
Street.
now?
I'm doing it. I don't care. I just did it. Kumi's tomato pie is.
Are you getting a kickback for this?
No, but the kickback is I love Kumi's tomato pie, and it's really good. Yeah. So if you haven't had it,
you're hoping for free pie.
No, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to that convention tomorrow, so I'm not going to be able to go early in the morning because you have to get there early. I'm going to go on Sunday and get it. So
all right,
we're having tomato pie on Sunday, just so you know. The seed has been planted.
The terror grows.
It's invasion of the body snatchers in the form of a tomato pie. You heard it here on Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. Here come the suits.
Mm.
Anyway, I'm mad. I am not going to read that. And the funny thing is, Ross can now read it.
Well, if it's up on the screen, I can't see it. As far as I know, I can't see it while we're broadcasting unless you put it up there.
Oh, you should be able to see. You can't see the comments while we're broadcasting.
No, I can't. Well, I
Oh, you
couldn't
know what?
before either. Yeah.
Oh, you know what, Ross? If you look to the right.
Oh, I can do that. I don't want to look at that stuff. It's distracting.
Okay.
Let's see. When are the talking? Oh, I see. Yeah, I see it. I'm going back.
Whoops, we lost Ross, folks. Ross disconnected himself from the show. Ross, you're going to have to click back in because you've totally knocked yourself out. So anyway, Ross will be joining us shortly. And as Chris LaRoche was saying, the stack of the killer tomato pie took Ross out. Attack of the killer tomato pies. All right, there we go. So anyway, oh, there he is.
Hilarious.
I was just getting ready to go on, Ross, without you. I was going to try to stall for time.
Yeah. Don't have me click anything.
Yeah.
Just let me do the show. I'll look at it later.
Vince is saying, you should bring me some tomato pies, pal.
That's a true pal.
Yeah.
The pal that brings you tomato pie.
And Don saying, I really love the Robert McGinnis illustrations that promoted these movies. Or was it the book covers? Very cool.
Completely of their era, too. So
Yeah,
it captures that. Yeah.
So
where are we in the movie? Did we get to the Galaxy Island yet?
No, we did not get to the Galaxy Island. So what's happened is Flint has been with Gilla, and of course it's the morning after. and Martin's saying, did Ross go out for a hoagie?
For a tomato pie. Yeah.
No, he went for tomato pie, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, what happens is it's the morning, and this is just like a typical Bond film. It reminds me of Moonraker. And what happens is he's leaving, and he goes and he takes her keys, and she's watching. She's awake, and then she reports in that Flint has the keys.
That's every Bond movie.
Yeah,
it's North by Northwest.
Yeah, well,
I mean, that gets done so often. But go ahead.
I'm just using one as an example.
All right.
So what happens is he goes into the he gets a cab ride, and he's going back and forth, and he's giving coordinates too, because he's talking in code, and he has in fact, it was one of the gags too at the beginning was that Cramden Lee J. Cobb wanted to give him his like code book, and then he's like, I've got my own codes, to use. So that which they wind up using. And he's saying that he'll report back later, but he's on his way to this area. So he goes to the location of where this is located. It's almost like a company site. He gets there, and when he goes into the safe, he's locked into the safe by Edward Mulhare and a henchman. And what then they do is they separate that part of the building out, and then they're going to transport him to the island, and he's essentially going to suffocate if he's stuck in there. And what's really interesting too is as he pulls out and they take him away, this is like late at night, the townspeople literally, the backdrop comes down, and then they set up like this whole area of like a restaurant, and it's like everything disappeared that was there. And the cab that actually had brought Flint there, the general and Cramden try to find Flint, and they actually go there, and it's all gone. There's nothing there that's existing. Yeah. So they bring him. They're bringing him, transporting him back to the Galaxy Island, and in the meantime, Flint is able to get out. He uses his lighter, which is able to do like 83, as Ross said, 83 different things, 83 different functions. And he's able to essentially use it to like a burning torch. Gets out, and he hears that his 4 female friends have been captured, which we didn't cover, by a galaxy because they're discussing it, and they're essentially getting programmed to be brainwashed. And then Flint relays that the island needs to be destroyed, but he's going to provide the coordinates later because he doesn't want to have the coordinates provided because he wants to try to rescue them. So that leads into this whole other area, which was rather entertaining too, because getting out of the unescapable prison and everything, and
Yeah.
it's
Oh yeah, no doubt it was entertaining. A little given that he wouldn't have given him the coordinates, but you know, it's a
that was
movie.
that was part of what kept you on edge.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to
Oh, here
digress
we
just
go.
for a moment. Catherine commented again. She said, Maracas consisted of three brothers. The main place was on Olden Avenue. The two others were in Morrisville across the Perry Street Bridge, and one on the boardwalk in Seaside Heights.
Hmm.
Cool. Um, I'll let this one go, Matt. Gilla, Mr. Flint has 4 weaknesses, but when I'm done with him, he'll have 5. So anyway, he gets to the they find him. Now, what we've been shown earlier is that Flint can actually lower his body rate down to a point where you
His
can't
heart
even
rate. Yeah.
his heart rate where it's almost like non-existent.
Right.
So they're thinking that they're going to find him in the safe suffocated. So they open the door and then there he is, and he's just laying there. And then they take the pulse rate and everything, and he's pretty much gone. So they think, and then what they do is they put him into a coffin and then they're transporting him. Got to ask you this, Ross. They don't even show you when he gets out of the coffin or anything. It's like 1 minute he's in that coffin and they're having him transported, and then the next minute he's a guard and he's running somebody over. Did you
Yeah.
catch that? How abrupt that was?
Yeah. It's the old James Bond slash, later Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of thing where he, beats somebody up and takes their uniform. Very stylish uniform, by the way. Very very 60s, very stylish uniform that he takes. Apparently, those outfits, the badges and everything, and a lot of the sets were reused in Land of the Giants,
Yes.
the TV series. I didn't realize that, but
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Sean Tabor. I don't know if Sean's watching us tonight, but Sean actually was commenting about that. Sean's really into costumes and uniforms and models and things of that nature. And he was pointing that out. So I thought that was kind of cool when he was commenting before we did this. Interesting enough, too, referring to Land of the Giants, all of that was owned by 20th Century Fox. So even when they had the submarine that was used for transportation, I could not help but wonder if it was a redressing of the voyage to the bottom of the sea view. And then also, even at one point, when they arrive at the docking location outside on the island of the Galaxy Island, it was part of the set that was used outside for the Nelson Institute of Technology for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So,
right.
again, it's all 20th Century Fox that distributed. Christian is joining us. Christian, welcome to the show. Good to see you out there. I hope you're doing well. So anyway, he infiltrates his way in. I also love the music that they play, and we'll talk about that. The
music's great. Yeah,
it really, really works. And of course, Jerry Goldsmith at his best with the soundtrack.
Right.
You'll cover that in detail. But there's like a theme. It's almost like the bongos are going. I can't even do it. But it's. And I know Vince will be saying Roy Belcourt's master impressionist, but it's just a really cool theme when he's like got his gadgets going and he's trying to get in. It's like they're going to it.
Yeah. It's the swinging 60s super spy music.
And it really works. It really works well.
Yeah.
So anyway, he infiltrates his way in. But what is hysterical, and I wish I had a photo of it because it was so funny. He sees an eagle, and and all the guards and everybody are walking in. Now it's almost like it's a pleasure island type. All the women are like in these these really. I'm being really
scantily clad.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, it's 1966 to the T. It's the mid 60s and everything, but it's and then they've got the guards that are just kind of walking and everything, and they're all going towards the building, and then all of a sudden he sees an eagle that's kind of perched, and then as he's walking, it starts attacking after him, and then he starts running and he's trying to get away from it, and then other fellow guards essentially come up to him, and he's like questioning what's going on, and then they said that the eagle is programmed to see, visitors that are going to potentially attack. And then what does Coburn say? He goes, an anti-American eagle.
Yeah, yeah.
Go figure. And
How insidious. Yeah, it was.
exactly.
Yeah, because they had it trained to sniff out Americans, to
Hmm.
attack Americans. Yeah, he's the
Right.
anti-American eagle.
An anti-American eagle. It
How
was just
diabolical, or whatever he said. Yeah, that was a pretty good job. Yeah, it's funny when they were all going in. It made me think of Time Machine with the Eloy, where when the bell rings, everybody has to go into to eat.
yes.
Yeah, there were a couple of things in this movie. I mean, it might not have been intentional, but certainly it wasn't with Superman, because Superman was in '78. But the opening scene when they have the submarine and the weather machine, and they cause that dam to break and take
Right.
out that village at the beginning, it's like, oh, where's Superman to push the boulders down to stop the flooding? There was the Eloy thing. There was uh, when they put them all in the drums, jumping ahead, when they put them in the barrels, and they escape in the barrels, or the Hobbit, is that's how they escape the wood elves in the Hobbit. So I could see her glazing.
No, I was reading Catherine's comment, but I was thinking the same thing about Superman when you said that about
I
that.
knew
As
you
far
would
as
be, because it looked
I,
the same.
it
Yeah.
really did. And interesting enough, LB Abbott, who did the special effects for Lost in Space, he did the special effects for Land of the Giants, he did the special effects for this movie,
Uh,
and he did a decent job with it. But yeah, so no, I'm totally with you in regards to that, Ross. It definitely reminded me of Superman.
what can I say?
Um, one of the comments that Catherine said, and she even said it's off the subject. And Catherine, I did see this before the show, and I was
Oh
actually
my
going to
goodness!
mention later. Yeah, Henry Silva died at the age of 94, and yeah, of course, the Manchurian Candidate.
Wow.
Yeah, he was also in Buck Rogers. He played
Mm.
Kane in the pilot movie of
Yeah.
in 1979. But yeah, that's quite a loss.
Always a villain. Yeah.
Very sad.
Fought Chuck Norris at least once too,
Yeah. Yep.
in one of
That's
those
right.
movies. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That's.
Henry Silverfest.
Yeah, we'll have to do one of his films. I mean, we could even do. I mean, we haven't done Buck Rogers. Well, we covered Buck Rogers on the show back when the show first came out, but I don't think it was Buck Rogers the movie was covered. But yeah, we'll delve into something a little bit more than Buck Rogers. So with Henry Silva, we'll do a tribute. But yeah, I didn't realize he was 94 though. Jeez.
Yeah, you know what? He's one of those actors where I think we talked about this. I thought he had died a long time ago, and then somebody brought up, the fact within the last couple of years that he was still around. It's like, oh wow,
Yeah.
Henry Silva's still around.
Yeah.
What do you know?
But thanks for sharing that, though, Catherine.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'll have to give me something to read when I get off of here. I'll read up on Henry Silva.
There you go.
Because they'll have a million obituaries now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I actually saw Barbara Luna had posted on Facebook, and that's where I saw that he had passed. Like, so, but anyway, getting back to the film. So they take him into custody, and this is where he meets the scientists, and they're trying to convince him to, well, essentially, Edward Mulhare wants him 86th. He wants him, taken out. And you know what? I just thought of something that's really funny. The term when you 86 something, it's a restaurant term. It means you. And I just thought of Get Smart.
Agent 86.
He was Agent 86.
Yeah.
I just caught that. Yeah, there you go. It only took me 56 years to get that, but
yeah. So Get Smart is like it's like War and Peace or something. We're getting something here. So who came up with it? I wonder. Mel Brooks or Buck Henry came up with the joke. Mel's still around. We can still find out.
Yeah, Buck Henry passed. Buck Henry was in the last film we just did.
Yeah. Man Who Fell to Earth.
Yeah, the man who fell to earth. So anyway, with that said,
and he did Quark.
What's that?
Quark also. We've
Quark?
done Quark, and Buck Henry was Quark.
Yep, that's right.
Created Quark.
1977 series. We are really digressing.
I'm trying to entertain myself to get a. Where are we now with this thing? Are we almost done?
Are we almost done? Agent 86 is not an accident.
Yeah.
No. Silva's awesome. Read a bio on him last year and was shocked that he was still alive. Yeah, that's what we're just saying.
Yeah.
So anyway, he meets with the scientists, and essentially they're trying to convince him to join the team, and he wants no part of it because essentially he feels that it's corrupt. They're trying to say that they're trying to save the world, they're trying to do good for the world, and then of course Flint says it's what you want for the world, it's not what I want for the world, and it's not right. So
I'm going to blow everything up.
So they're essentially going to put him. They're going to incinerate him, and before that happens, they take Gilla, and she tries to help Flint. And then what they do is they say that she's going to essentially be programmed. But in so doing, while all that commotion is going on, she is able to get Flint's lighter to Flint, and they take her away to get processed, so to speak. And while all this is happening, they're going to have him incinerated. And of course, he's able to jump the guards. The guard gets incinerated, but unfortunately, so does his lighter. So he's essentially on his own. And what he's doing is he's trying to find his 4 maidens, which he does find, and he brings them back to reality and says that they are not a pleasure unit.
Biggest irony in the movie.
They're not everybody else
we've seen for the last hour and a half.
Yeah, they're not everybody else. Essentially, what he was saying is, you're not everybody else's pleasure unit. You're my pleasure unit.
Exactly.
So
now put on these bikinis.
So with all of that, he's able to rescue them, and then one of the other scenes is with he's trying to rescue, and I don't know if I have that slide or not. I don't know. I didn't put it up there. He's trying to rescue Gilla, and she's going under, and she's looking into the hypnotic eye, so to speak. And then he gives what some would say is a Vulcan nerve pinch to one of the guards, and renders him unconscious. And then he deprograms Gilla. He's able to get her away from there, and brings her to the other girls, and essentially just says, "Wait here." And what he does is he sabotages the plant, and everything is pretty much going to shut off. And what he tells the scientists is that, this is not going to happen, and the scientists are actually going to surrender. But it's Mulhair's character who essentially intervenes, tries to kill him, but accidentally, the 3 scientists get killed, and then in the process, the plant starts to blow. And then Flint adds to the process by sabotaging the plant. Mulhair's character gets into a fight with Flint, and obviously he meets his demise. And then what they're left to do is to try to escape from the island. And there's a waterfall, and there's all those containers. Everybody's trying to run off the island. Everybody's trying to escape. And then, of course, Flint gets his 5 ladies to where the waterfall are, and there happens to be 5 containers there, and he puts them into all the containers, and he pushes the containers so that they go off into the waterfall. And then he himself, what he does is he jumps into the fall, of course.
Yeah, the water is no longer flowing out of the mouth of the cave, because I think there's one last container he was going to take, but instead he winds up doing the swan dive or what have you.
Exactly.
It's pretty good payoff. Yeah. But so Flint, who doesn't want this utopian world, decides he'd rather blow up the island and kill all the innocent bystanders. All the other pleasure units, they're all dead at the bottom of the ocean right now, blown to smithereens. But, we have a better world thanks to him.
Yeah, exactly.
With our news.
So what happens is, in the process, while all of this is going on, the defense agency is going to attack. They're going to attack the island because Flint has communicated with them. So they're essentially going to bomb the heck out of it. So they're trying to get everybody out of there as fast as they can, because he's let them know that he's alive, and they're all surprised that he is alive. But then, of course, Cramden, who is almost, again, he's on the side of Flint. He even says he's alive because he's Flint. So it's almost like it speaks for itself. And they're able to make their way, and then they make their way onto the ship. And what they do is in the final burst of a spectacular explosion, they are able to watch as the island explodes and comes to an end.
Countless toxins spilled into the ocean. Just all kinds of toxic waste. But we have a better world now.
But we have a better world.
Yeah, and there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, they're totally deprogrammed. None of them are pleasure units now.
Well, it's hysterical too, because he's gathered with the four, his family. I'll say his family of four, and he's kissing each one of them. And then what happens is Gilla comes over, and then he grabs her hand, and then he kisses her, and then they're all watching. They all come together to watch the final explosion, so to speak.
So to speak. What? All right. There you go.
But that was our man Flint.
Our man Flint. Now there were several actors. You mentioned Van Williams did the voice of Lyndon Johnson. Did you notice Mr. Whipple on the island?
He was in there, and he was in charge of I think of the programming of the programming of the
I know, it makes you feel a little dirty, doesn't it? When you think about this, don't squeeze the Charmin, and Mr. Whipple's there programming.
Do you know who else was in this movie who had a cameo?
Oh, I know. Go ahead.
James Brolin.
I don't think it was a cameo. I think it was just kind of like
I shouldn't even say.
In the back.
You're absolutely right. I shouldn't say cameo. Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah, the producer though, Saul David, and what a name that is, Saul David. The biblical. They're both kings of Israel. There was always such a conflict between. Saul was jealous of David and everything. Well, this producer's name is Saul David. Okay, there's a real, peaceful name. Anyway, he produced also Fantastic Voyage, and James Brolin, if you'll recall, had a walk-on in that movie.
I do remember.
It was right around the same time. All of these actors were all doing, other prominent things at the time. He hadn't obviously taken off yet, but it is funny. We were talking about, oh, you're gone now. You're going to leave me here. I don't know who I'm talking to, but this is, Band from Uncle going on at the same time. You had Hogan's Heroes. I mean, all of these actors were working in parallel projects. So here we are. Hi, welcome to my CD collection. Shall we see what I've got? If Roy doesn't come back in the next 10 seconds, we'll start pulling things off the shelves, maybe. We'll go for a walking tour. Go for a walking tour of my library. What happened?
I don't know.
What happened?
I don't know what happened.
So, yeah. Anyway, I was just saying, mentioning that there were all these parallel things going on, like James Brolin being in the two projects right around the same time. How Hogan's Heroes was going on. How Man from Uncle was going on. All of these things that people involved with this were participating in these other things while this was going on. So,
I thought that was kind of cool, because James Brolin's career was just actually starting. I mean, he was actually in an episode of Batman around that time. Probably like maybe the next year or two. He was playing like a boxer.
I wouldn't exactly say taken off at that point, but yeah.
I mean, in a couple of years from then, like 68, 69.
But
in fact, Amanda just commented. Or Christian said, Amanda Knight, he just retired after making his last film in my area. Oh, okay. I guess we're talking about something.
I wonder who they're speaking of.
Interesting enough, Raquel Welch was first considered for the part.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah. Gilla, for the part of Gilla, right?
Yep.
And I mentioned Saul David, who also produced Logan's Run, by the way. The director had made 30-some movies, but real movies, working with real actors. People like Burt Lancaster and Marlon Brando, and
Well, Daniel Mann, I thought it was a very interesting background with him because he was somebody that actually started out and he wanted to be an actor. And he worked with, I guess he was doing training with Sanford Meisner. And to your point, he did like about 31 films. 7 of the films, I guess, were Academy Award winners. 2 of them were nominated. He did also theater. 2 of them were nominated for Tonys. So he, yeah.
So there's a whole list of things that you would know, like Come Back Little Sheba, The Rose Tattoo, the Tennessee Williams play. He did The Tea House of August Moon with the Glenn Ford and Marlon Brando. So he did all these things. And Butterfield 8, which was Elizabeth Taylor's first Oscar winner. And then he did Willard, the movie about the rats.
Yep.
And Matilda with Elliot Gould.
Ooh.
Not the Roald Dahl one, but the one where with the boxing kangaroo.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That's for all our friends in Australia.
Well, Amanda.
Yeah, there was a movie, which you may know about, with Elliot Gould being the manager of this boxing kangaroo. I saw it at Radio City Music Hall, believe it or not.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There
Radio
you go.
City Music Hall. The first thing I saw in the Radio City Music Hall, I remember going with, it was for kindergarten, and it would have been Tom Sawyer. They showed.
Oh, okay. With Johnny Whitaker.
Johnny Whitaker. I think it was like
Yeah.
71. I think it was 71. It was literally.
The songs were by the Sherman Brothers, who were the Disney team who did Mary Poppins. You know who did the score for Tom Sawyer, though? John Williams.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Hey,
Yeah,
Chris LaRoche commented about Marcus Welby. If I remember correctly, in regards to James Brolin, because he played Dr. Kiley, I think that came out in 1969. My memory.
Yeah, so that was a big break for him. Yeah,
it was a couple of years later. But,
before Westworld and Outland and
he really took off in the 70s.
What's that?
Yeah. He really took off in the 1970s, but then, of course, like you said, Barbra Streisand. What was it? He did the television series.
Oh,
Motel.
right. Was it Hotel or Motel Hell?
No, Motel. You want to hear a funny story about Motel Hell? So I'm gonna do a crossover here.
Yeah.
Motel Hell was directed by Kevin Connor, who directed 2 Space 1999 episodes, Brian the Brain, and also Seed of Destruction. He was on the Space 19. We had him on for the Space 1999 virtual convention last weekend. And
I saw him on schedule. Yeah.
He talked about doing Motel Hell. He said it was his first like horror film. It came out in 1980. Rory Calhoun was in it. The actress
Jack had a small part in it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Elaine Joyce was in it.
I remember the poster. It takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent fritters. That's what it was. Yeah.
But he said the whole thing for filming that, and he told, with the actors, he said, you got to play it straight. You have to play it. And he did. But it turned into a cult following. And he was saying about, I guess there's a convention coming up where, he was going to be going to it and, be attending that.
So that was the Space 1999 Destination Moonbase Alpha virtual convention last weekend, which you participated in. And now, is there a way for people to go and watch this still? Is it archived?
Yeah, you'd actually have to register to get tickets because it was a ticketed event, and it was going. The proceeds were going to charity for that. But you can go to on Facebook, you can go to Destination Moonbase Alpha, and the information is listed there. So it was a full day event for both days. I mean, it was at least total 14 hours of material.
Yeah. And who were the people you interviewed?
We had Christian Anhalt, who is the son of Tony Anhalt, who was in the second season. We had Suzanne Heimer, who was Barbara Bain's stand-in. Her son came on to talk about being on the set when he was growing up. Also, if you're a Dark Shadows fan, oh my God, I'm blanking out on her name. I didn't. My goodness, that's terrible. My goodness, Dark Shadows. That's really, really bad. I wasn't expecting to.
I grilled you. Well, the schedule is up on their website. So
it's on the page. But we had the director. We had James Goldstone, who was a director or a writer from the show. Catherine Lee Scott. Thank you. I'm thinking I was blanking out. Actress Catherine Lee Scott, who was very well known for Dark Shadows. She was done that, and she's also an author too. She's written a lot of books. Nick Tate, who's a friend of this show. Anton Phillips was there. Thank you, Martin. Prentice Hancock. Also, David Hirsch from Starlog magazine. If you're a Starlog, if you folks out there remember Starlog, David is, been instrumental with Space 1999 and Jerry Anderson throughout the years. And he used to write a column for this Jerry Anderson Space Report. In fact, both him and Bob Wood had produced a book that was about Space 1999 that just came out earlier this year. And now they have a second book coming out in November, and it's called Yes, Maybe There. Space 1999, The Lost Stories. Yes, Maybe There. So that's going to be coming out. So, a lot of information, a lot of good stuff. And you can go to the show's page. There's a listing of different people that were there. But thanks for asking, Ross.
Well, yeah, I was just curious who you interviewed, but we won't go over all.
No.
We won't go back over that.
No, yeah. but thank you. I want to say that.
Oh, there you go. There's Matt. Yeah.
Saw Ginger Rogers at Radio City in the ninth grade. She was like a cropped up corpse recounting her glory days.
Nice.
Sat next to Mark Cortezzo, and we laughed. Oh, jeez.
No, there's a real empathetic fellow.
Yeah.
Screen legend Ginger Rogers, Oscar winner Ginger Rogers.
Yeah, that's a shame. But anyway, let me see here. Christian is saying, I saw a post about Calhoun in Motel Hell that it was his revenge for not being able to kill Gilligan some years before. Oh my goodness. And the crowd goes wild. If there ever was a time for shout-outs, now is it. Anyway, before we get to the shout-outs, Ross, of course we have to go to the music. And of course, we've talked about this fellow numerous times, but the music in this movie was incredible. And can you share us information about that in regards to Jerry Goldsmith?
Jerry Goldsmith, the great Jerry Goldsmith. If not for John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith would have just mopped up every year at the Oscars, I think. But unfortunately, Johnny came up, right on the heels of Jerry and kind of stole his thunder. Every time, there'd be a big hit. John Williams would get Jaws, and then Jerry Goldsmith would get, the next, aquatic creature movie. Or John Williams gets Superman and Jerry Goldsmith gets Supergirl, or it just went like that their whole career. Right. John Williams would get the big movie, and John Williams would get E.T., and Jerry Goldsmith would get Baby, Legend of the Lost, I don't know, the little dinosaur movie or whatever it was, or John gets Jurassic Park. But anyway, so Jerry Goldsmith did this movie, great score, fun score. Totally, like I said, swinging 60s, super spy. You don't get John Barry, you get Jerry Goldsmith, And Jerry Goldsmith had a whole lot of experience with these espionage type. I mean, he was writing music for Man from U.N.C.L.E., for a few years before this even came out. And after, he was still scoring Man from U.N.C.L.E., did the theme music for that. Of course, he did, my goodness, I mean, so many great scores. Planet of the Apes, Chinatown, Patton, he did The Omen was his only Oscar winner. For all the scores he got nominated for all the great classic scores he did, he only won for the Omen. But he did Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Of course, he got very deeply involved with Star Trek after that. He did theme music for Next Generation, which was basically the theme music for Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and several projects and films after that. But so we know Jerry. But for this film, I like the fact that he was so inventive with, it's very loosey-goosey kind of score, and he had a lot of fun with the orchestration of the piece. You have the mandatory like surf or guitar, the surf guitar that they always use it, like in the Bond films. You got the guitar riff, so you had the guitar going in this. You had the romantic string melody. You had the jazzy sax. You had some electronic touches in there. You had a mandolin when they were in Italy, and an accordion, all these international sounds, folk instruments associated with different locales. And then, of course, he had this Latin drum, Latin percussion section. So like you say, the bongos or what have you. through the
I
whole
love
thing.
that because anytime he was getting involved with his gadgetry, or anytime he was doing kind of where it was getting thought provoked, he was being, a thought provoking moment where he was trying to figure something out.
Right.
They always would play that. It was almost like it was his James Bond theme, so to speak.
And it was really interesting. Yeah, it was really interesting for me to watch it because I was really seeing how the film was spotted, where the music was placed and how it helped the movie move and where the cues would end and where the dialogue would pick up. And it was just so expertly done. And it really made me miss the way movies used to be,
Yeah.
and how you actually felt good listening to the score. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? When you watch this movie, you actually have it's a feeling you don't get when you go to the movies anymore. You don't have that lighter, kind of breezy feeling that you could get from the movies. I've been riding around with this in the car this week, and I
Nice.
thought, man, I haven't felt this good in a long time. So it's like we need people like Jerry Goldsmith and John Williams and John Barry and Elmer Bernstein and all these people that aren't around anymore. Well, John is, but
What is it, Ross? I mean, you just brought up a point. It's almost like there was a point where films transitioned. You go to the movie theater, and I'm not saying, I mean, there are films that you see that are contemporary that you do, and I mean, on the average, you do enjoy. I mean, they're welcoming on a certain point, a certain level. Is it the nostalgia aspect, or is it that they changed, or is it a little bit of both? It's just that it's definitely different.
yeah,
I'm not sure what to attribute it to. I don't know if it's the filmmaking itself, if it's the type of movies, is it the camera direction, is it the direction in general? I mean, or is it all
yeah,
the components listed? Is it's it's very different. And I, of course, we've talked about it numerous times where each decade has their own tone,
yeah.
but it just seems to be slipping away more and more so. And I'm not
I mean,
sure.
we should do a whole show unto this. Is a show unto itself. It's not an
Yeah.
easy thing to answer. I think partially. Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff, but I think a lot of that craft is gone.
Mhm.
That's not to say that people aren't unskilled when they do things. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously
Not at
we
all.
can do things visually now that like John Ford or Billy Wilder would have never dreamt that they could do, what we could do with the movies now. Not that Billy Wilder was an action director, but John Ford, for instance, the guy who did all the westerns and things. He would never cut a movie like we would cut today, or but so people can do these fantastic things, but I think we're just so far away from like the old kind of craft
Yeah.
where they didn't get lost in the technology. It was at the service of in the service of the story, at the service of the story, and all these people lived. You know what I mean? They had real lives. Everybody. You dig deep enough into their biographies, they all had these hard knock childhoods or interesting upbringing, childhoods or interesting uh, uh, developmental stories. They're either in the war or they lived through the Depression, or
Right.
they kind of made their way. They worked on a ranch somewhere and made their way to Hollywood or something, and they all kind of had life experience when they came to it, as opposed to just being a bunch of knuckleheads coming out of film school and knowing how to work a computer and saying, "Oh, we can save." The studios say we don't have to take time to have. Why do all this stuff here on the set where it's going to cost money when we can do it in post production on the computer?
Mm.
You
Yeah. No, it's a valid point.
know?
Christian just commented, I have a special one that I just saw last week, Roy, a film called Number One, License to Love and Kill, starring, and then that's where he dropped off.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing that. And then also, Amanda commented, and I want to go back to it. She said, money, I think no one will take a chance. Also, formula. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's part of it.
movies. There's just so much money wrapped up in movies anymore. That they don't want to take any chances. Yeah.
Chris is commenting, it's all how the components come together. Today's new tech kills off old skills, which is a real shame. Yeah, you're right, Chris.
Yeah. Like we should have a whole separate show on this.
We
Yeah.
should. I think we should.
Yeah.
We'll do kind of a one off, or don't even have to call it a one
Because
off.
we're
We'll just
already at the 2 hour mark, and this could easily go on for another 2 hours with the comments and with us like theorizing.
yeah. But I think
Which
it's
is
something.
yeah,
I think it would make for a really interesting discussion,
yeah,
and I think it
yeah.
would be
I do
good. So
too.
let us know if you'd like to hear something or be a part. If this would be of interest to you out there. I think it would
Yeah.
be it definitely would be, and we can delve into this and something we can discuss at another time. But we'll come back to it. Real quickly, Brennan commented, and I'm going to go with Brennan's last comment here. I think it's the writing partly. There has such a decent in quality. I have been watching the Logan's Run TV show and Raised by Wolves lately. Logan's Run was so much better written. Raised by Wolves barely makes any sense. So yeah, we'll come back to this. Also, Bill commented, I missed the scoring of movies. I think the music has become more needle drop style in the films today. Yeah.
And it's so unmemorable. This you walk out of the theater even humming the theme. I mean, because they do it so much. So different. It's different. It's inventive, and it's presented differently throughout the film. But you remember the theme, you know.
Yeah, and to Bill's comment about that too, when you would see a movie that would have when they would make a film, the score would be memorable. It would be something you would identify with the movie. It would be almost as obviously it's a part of the movie, but it would be almost as strong as the story of the movie. It's something that was well represented.
Oh, it was a character in the film. Yeah.
Yeah, it was exactly. It was a character in itself. Television shows have done this where they've eliminated even opening credits, and they don't even have a theme, because essentially what they're doing is they're cutting, especially if it's a half-hour show, what they're doing is they're utilizing that time in order to have more time for the character development or the story, and more. And actually, I'm wrong to even say that. It's more for advertising, because a lot of that time is going towards advertising. So to Bill's comment, in movies, it's definitely happening. And then also I've seen that with television immensely as well. But yeah, we will go ahead, Ross.
No, it's a shame, because he used to come out with like best of the year, film scores or what have you. And we don't have any like a Lawrence of Arabia's anymore, or Romeo and Juliet, or Dr. Zhivago, or even Love Story. You know what I mean? We're in The Godfather. Everybody knew the themes to these movies. They were played everywhere. Even Muzaki versions when you were in the dentist chair or what have you. But you don't get that. Who's going to remember the theme to, I don't know, what's like, the last Batman movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, it's just a bunch of like drones,
Chris says usually you hear the score before you'd hear the dialogue. Martin is saying Martin is asking, Ross, is the Flint CD still available anywhere?
This is the Verez Sarabande release. It was reissued on Entrada. Just Google it and see. It's got both In Like Flint and Our Man Flint. But I think the Entrada release does too. Google it and see if it's still available. If it's not, check eBay. Sometimes they turn up on there for, hopefully a reasonable price.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes not. I miss great movie soundtracks too. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go to the shout outs. If you want to
one other comment I wanted to make.
Go for it, Ross. Go ahead.
That scene where they're dancing in that room, the go-go on the island, that music was written by a young Randy Newman.
I saw that.
Yeah. The guy who, Short People, but he's gone on to, quite a movie career himself. The Natural and Avalon and Toy Story and. So there you go. Randy Newman he was born in 1943, so he would have been in his 20s.
Yeah, he would have been 22 years old when the movie was released. Wow. Thanks for bringing that up, because I did see that when we for that. Alrighty, folks, leave your any comments you'd like to, and then I'm going to circle back, and then right after we're done with the shout outs. So in regards to upcoming stuff, I want to give a shout out to our friends Mike and Mary Beth from Sci-Fi Distilled. Mike and Mary Beth discuss science fiction of the 80s, 90s, and beyond. They will be back this Wednesday, which is going to be September 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and they will be discussing the 1986 film Highlander. So,
it's the quickening.
Yes, talking about Bond and everything. Sean Connery, yes.
There can be only one. Yeah.
So yes. So check out Mike and Mary Beth. Again, they are Sci-Fi Distilled, and they are on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I also want to give a shout out to Country Gate Players, our friend Bill Scarrato that's out there, who owns Country Gate Theater. As we know, theaters have been affected with COVID. So what Bill has been doing is he's been organizing different events that can be taking place at the theater throughout the year. So right now, I want to announce that in the month of October, which is Halloween month, it's coming up, folks, and it's crazy to think that next month is literally Halloween. So a lot of exciting stuff. If you are in the New Jersey area, the Belvedere, New Jersey area, or bordering Pennsylvania, and you are local, please check out the website. You can go to either Facebook, and it's for Country Gate, or you can also go to Bill's page, which is www.billscarrato.com. So this is going to be a classic horror film festival going on for the month of October. And it's actually, this is really cool. So it's going to be starting out with on October 8th. These films are going to be on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And the first one is going to be the 1968 classic, which will be shown is Night of the Living Dead, which is George A. Romero's film. So definitely that's a true Halloween film. So that's going to be playing. On October 15th, Nosferatu. This is a 100-year-old movie, folks. It's a German film that was actually released in 1922. And Ross, this movie was actually is based on Brad Stoker's Dracula. It's kind of like an unofficial adaptation of it, of the novel from 1897. One thing, though, is the music is by Hans Erdmann. Am I pronouncing that right?
Hans Bergman?
Erdmann.
It's possible. I mean, I don't know if any music was written specifically for it. It's possible. I mean, it's a silent movie.
Yeah.
I know later when it was reissued, what's his name? James Bernard, who did the Hammer films, did a version of it, but that was much later. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to mention that to you because I saw that, he was a part of that. So just wanted to point that out. I thought that was kind of cool. And then on October 22nd, it's Little Shop of Horrors. Now, this is the original Little Shop of Horrors that was it's kind of a horror comedy. It's the 1960 version. It's not the musical. And this is the one that was directed by Roger Corman. So this is going to be shown at the theater as well. So very, very cool. And again, it's Halloween focused. Now, the big one is October 29th. And this is going to be at 8 p.m. as well. And it's going to be October 29th at 8 p.m. and October 30th at 2 p.m. And it is Plan 9 from Outer Space, The Experience. And the reason why it's being called this, folks, is because it's going to be a combination of Mystery Science Fiction Theater 3000 kind of meeting Rocky Horror. And what that said is the film is going to be shown in its entirety. However, through the course of the film, there will be, I'll say, Country Gate players being a part of this production and on stage while the film is being shown and kind of giving some commentary along the way. So it's going to be a fun time. So definitely, if you are in the area, definitely check it out. And it's going to be a fun month in October. So it's a little bit long. I wanted to make sure to put that out there to you. So it's coming. Next, I want to give a shout out for Captain Phil's Planet. Captain Phil is on WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. His schedule is on Friday nights at 9 to 11 p.m., which is actually right now. And he's on alternating Thursdays between 3 and 5 p.m. The show that's on right now is actually, Ross was actually did a recording to be a part of the broadcast. And the interesting subject for me personally was it was dealing with Adagio in G minor. And Ross, if you want to just jump in real quick and just talk about, just like give a 30-second spill about the information.
Yeah. Phil has Annie Haslam, who was part of the progressive rock group Renaissance on his show. He interviewed her. So he had me on to talk about some of the influences on their music because they quote a lot of classical pieces in their songs. And in this instance, there was an Adagio in G minor by Albinoni that we talk about. It's a famous piece. But there's all kinds of stuff that we cover with that. It's probably on right now, actually. I think he said it would be 9:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
But he archives the shows so you can hear it later.
Exactly. So you can go back and you can definitely tune in. And then also, I may have said it, he is on alternating Thursdays at 3 to 5 p.m. So yeah, definitely, if you have the opportunity to check it out, I actually got to hear the broadcast, and it's really good. So
We talk a little bit about Space 1999
yeah, I
because he
know.
used the Adagio in one of the episodes.
Dragon's Domain.
Dragon's Domain, right?
Exactly. Also, I want to give a shout out to friends Todd Gordon, or excuse me, Todd Morton and Gordon Moriguchi. They do Todd's Corner, which is on Sundays, and that's on at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The show has been on hiatus, but will be returning shortly. Once I get a firm date from Todd when he's going to be coming back, I will let everybody know. But just be aware that they do broadcast on here on Facebook. And then Ross, if you can let everybody know what you've got planned and what's going on as well.
All right. Those are the two programs that I've got on WWFM, the Classical Network. Picture Perfect's the movie music show. And tomorrow night, Saturday night at 6 o'clock, I'm focusing on English documentaries. So I've got 4 scores lined up for that. One of them is by Rafe Vaughan Williams, score for a film called The People's Land, a short film. I have music on there by Benjamin Britten called The King's Stamp. It's actually about the production of a stamp, but the music is by Benjamin Britten, one of England's foremost composers. I've got a score for The Green Girdle by William Alwyn, which has to do with trees and greenery, not what you would think from the title. And the final score is by Sir Arthur Bliss, who was master of the Queen's music at the time, The Royal Palaces of Britain, by Sir Arthur Bliss. So those are the 4 scores on tomorrow night on Picture Perfect on WWFM, the Classical Network, at 6 o'clock. If you can't listen at the time posted there, you can tune in. They're posted as webcasts later at www.fm.org. On Sunday night is The Lost Chord, Sunday night at 10. That's the unusual and neglected classical music. So on that program, I have music by Sir Edward Elgar, who at the time was England's foremost composer. And George Bernard Shaw was just sickened by the fact that Elgar was being so unproductive. What happened was he was kind of, in a bad way because of the, demoralized by the, the state of things after the First World War. His wife had died, and he wasn't producing any major works. So George Bernard Shaw got him a commission to write a 3rd symphony. So Elgar dove into this project, and he was enthusiastic about it. He was working on it. Unfortunately, he died before the symphony was finished. So this is one of these things where it kind of bounced around for decades. The Elgar estate wouldn't allow anybody to complete the symphony, but when they saw it was going out of copyright, they allowed this other composer, Anthony Payne, to complete it. And I'm playing the completion of Elgar's 3rd symphony on Sunday night at 10 o'clock. It's especially relevant in that, Elizabeth's been in the news for the last, week or so, with her passing. One of the pieces that Elgar incorporated into the symphony was a work that he wrote for Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret when they were kids. It was called the Nursery Suite, and he draws on some thematic material from that for the symphony. So that's Sunday night at 10 on the Lost Chord on WWFM.org. And I'll write about them this week on my Facebook page at Classic Ross Amico. So tomorrow morning I'll write about Picture Perfect, and on Sunday you can read about the symphony for the Lost Chord. Thanks, Roy.
Thanks, Ross. Very cool. Yeah. And then lastly, I just want to give let everybody know Ross and I will be back. We will be back next Friday, September 23rd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and we will be discussing episode 161, which is Alphaville. And this actually came up because of the passing of Jean-Luc Godard, who had just passed away, who was a French filmmaker. And we thought, Ross actually brought this to my attention as far as his passing. So we thought it would be appropriate to actually discuss one of his films. And Christian, who's actually out in the audience right now, is going to be joining us to discuss this film. So that will be next Friday, and that will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And just a couple more things. I just want to thank everybody for your comments in regards to the show. One thing I'm just going to ask is, if you haven't, or if you can, please make sure to like the show's page, just because it's just a way of making sure that the show's acknowledged. And then also just letting anybody, if you really do enjoy the show, please just share it and just let other folks know about it. we're just trying to broaden the broadcast of the show. And if you can, please go to YouTube. I was very happy to hear that Bill was able to and Vince were able to actually go on to YouTube to find the show's page, as well as Matt. And then also Ruby joined us as well. So thank you, Ruby, for joining us for the first time. And Matt as well, thank you. And then, of course, thank you to Vince and Bill. And with that said, I just want to say, speaking of Vince and Bill, since we are going to be going on the I was just saying we're going to be going, the show's going to be on the 23rd. I want to extend a very happy birthday to Vince, who's going to be having a birthday this Tuesday on September 20th. And also a very happy birthday to Bill, whose birthday is on Wednesday, September 21st. So kind of wanted to just say that on the air, because when we rejoin, it will be after that. So very, very happy birthday wishes to the both of you. So
happy birthday.
Yeah, which is really cool. So, and it's really cool that their birthdays are literally a day apart. So anyway, with that, so yeah, thank you again, folks. We really appreciate you joining us, and thanks for being patient with some of the tech stuff. The new format seems to be working very well. There's some things I still want to work through, but again, I'm just trying to make sure that we're on other platforms. So if you are on Twitter, if you could just follow the show, and again, it's Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi, and then of course for on YouTube, if you can please just subscribe to the show, and that way you'll get notifications. And then also, if you haven't done so already, please do so on the Facebook page. And with that said, Ross, I am going to give you, before we sign off, and I'll say live long and prosper, I'm going to give you the last word. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, how the heck did we go on for 2 hours and 15 minutes about our man Flint? And then I realized it's that damn plot. Got to eliminate the plot. All right, I'm getting paid overtime, so we should get going.
With that said,
have a good weekend, everybody.
Have a great weekend. Also, if you are going to the Mid-Atlantic Convention, it's in Maryland. It's actually going on. It was started yesterday, Thursday. It was today, and also it's going to be tomorrow. I am going to actually be there, and if you are there, hopefully I'll see you. And I just wanted to say that, but just say it, Ross, the plot, because I am giving you the last word.
Message Roy if you're going to be there.
Take care, folks. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.